All right, we are live here on Smarter San Diego Facebook. Got a lot to talk about here regarding the VA home loan benefit, how and why to use it. These are both two important things to understand. I have a special guest. Before I get to introducing my special guest, let me put the information up on the screen. Here it is. NMLS number, Derrick Evens here. Obviously, I'm a licensed loan officer. I want to help you understand the important things to know about the VA home loan benefit. I also have a special guest joining us today, as I am my own producer as well. Sarah Haliburton's here. What's up, Sarah?
Hey, Derek. How are you?
There she is. All right. Yes. So Sarah, today this is obviously an important deal because a lot of people are unaware. I'm not sure if you know the statistics on this, but I'll drop it on you real quick. Only about 15% of people who are eligible for the VA home loan benefit actually use it, if you can believe that.
I can believe it, and I tell my clients all the time. I've actually had clients come to me to purchase their second home, and they were actually advised not to use their VA loan by their previous realtor, which is crazy to me, given the amazing benefits that the VA loan has.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that today, and I want to go into some great detail because this is an interesting time where people can take advantage of it, probably more so than usual. But forever, the VA home loan benefit's been here forever. I actually have a client right now who used the VA home loan benefit for the first time 45 years ago. So it's something that's been around for a long time. It's become streamlined. It's better now than it was in the past. But let's first of all, when we start talking about why the VA home loan, before we get to the why the VA loan versus other loans, I think it's important for us to cover why real estate. Why should I be even looking to buy a home? Fortunately, I have all this stuff summarized very nice and simply. Now, the main thing I think that causes people to look at buying real estate is when they see how much money they're throwing away on rent. And that's why I want you to understand the first premise here is your primary residence is really a hedge. And I'm going to explain to you what that is because I want you to be savvy about real estate. I don't want you to just go out there and blindly buy it and not know why you're buying it. You need to know why you're doing things and understand it so that you can make the right decisions and you don't do something silly. So the reason it's a hedge is because what you're doing is you are hedging your bets. You're hedging your costs. You're fixing in your costs. Let's take a look at graphic number 4. This is average rental rates. Now, this is just as of March 2018, so this is 2 years old. But what you can see here, and I'm going to draw it for you, the trend in rents, all right, is dramatically higher. Now, if we actually look from March 18 to today, it would even get more, I guess you would call that more steep in the curve for rents, because we were saying at this point in time, now this is always based on 2 bedrooms, so 1887. Most people who are renting out there are like, I'm not paying 1887 a month for rent. I'm paying way more than that. And that's because this has gotten even more steep. But the point is, the thing that I want you to understand is that when you purchase a home, what you're doing is you're hedging, because when you buy a house, your payment is the same. So when you buy a house, your payment looks like this. It's pretty much a straight line across. So you're protecting yourself from these crazy raises in rent and prices. And then what's really cool about buying a house is that one day as you get far enough along down this line, boom, your payment drops to 0 because you have a paid off house. Remember, that's the goal, okay? That's never going to happen with rent. It's never going to happen. If you want to have a $0 housing payment someday in your future, you have to own real estate. That is the only way to get it. So when we look at this, when we understand that buying a primary residence is a hedge first, there's 3 things that come along with home ownership that are crucial to understand. Number 1, you get tax advantages. Now, talk to your CPA. I'm not a CPA. Sarah's not a CPA. But if you're getting tax advantages, it means you're able to itemize your deductions. When you pay interest on a mortgage, that interest is tax deductible. Some people have asked me recently, well, didn't they make changes to the law? Didn't Trump change it so you can't get that? Only for people who have mortgages over $750,000 if they are a single individual, or over $1 million if they're a married couple. So for the vast majority of people, even in a high cost area like San Diego, it doesn't apply. And even if you do have a mortgage over those amounts, you still get to write off the interest up to those amounts. So yes, there's a huge tax advantage. Also, every payment you're making, you're paying down principal, which is huge. And you also have the opportunity for appreciation. All 3 of those things are things that you do not get when you rent. So if you want those things, when you rent, literally all three of those are zero. They're all zero when you rent. All three of these, when you rent, it's $0. But you have the opportunity to gain on all of these three fronts when you own. So that's so hedging our bets, right? Hedging our costs. And when you look at this, and Sarah, I want to talk about this because when we get to the BAH piece, when you talk about tax advantages, it's one of the most amazing situations that truly exists in all of personal finance in all of the country. There are a couple things that are really, really crazy, and one of them is the fact that people who are getting BAH, or basic allowance for housing, who have the chance to buy a home, you know that when you get that money, it's tax-free. You're not taxed on that. But then if you go and you buy a house with it, you're actually able to write off a big portion of what you pay for that house against your taxable then income. So for someone who is renting for $2,500 a month, let's say, let's put these numbers on paper. If it's $2,500 a month, okay, that's $30,000 a year. If you're here for 3 years, that's $90,000. So if you decide to just rent, and I'm using round numbers, some people have less BAH than $2,500, some people have more, but just for round numbers' sake, that's $90,000, Sarah, while you're here. $90,000 that you're for sure going to lose if you rent. So
yeah, you're giving it to your landlords, paying their mortgage.
You're paying someone's mortgage, one way or the other. So if you want to give away the $90,000, that's cool. It's your call. I don't recommend it, but you can do it. Now, if you want to invest it, when you buy a home, you have all the three things that we just talked about. I'll go back to that slide. Tax advantage, principal pay down, appreciation opportunity. But also, if you're active duty and you have BAH, you get the ultimate tax advantage because they're giving you money tax-free that you can then use to buy a home and get all of these things with. And you'll get to take the interest that you pay on that home and write it against your taxable income and reduce the amount of taxes you pay dramatically. So investment property is also something that a lot of people, are interested in when it comes to real estate. You can buy homes with your VA home loan benefit and turn them into investment properties. It's totally okay to do that. But the main thing also here is with the macro implications. This is something I want people to understand, because why real estate? If you're really wanting to know why real estate, you have to understand that there's only so much of it, yet we have a parabolically growing population. So the population is growing in a parabolic fashion, but the amount of real estate that's available here on Earth is obviously limited. It's finite. There's only so much of it. So when you have a situation where there's a limited amount of supply of anything and a exponentially growing demand, then you're going to be in a situation where prices will go higher. And that's why we've seen since the beginning of real estate, since the beginning of people claiming ground and saying, this is mine right here, there's been wars fought for this stuff. I mean, over and over and over and over. It has been the most valuable thing because of the macro implications. So I think that's super crucial to understand.
Derrick, real quick,
Yeah.
Can we touch base back on the investment property too?
Yeah.
If I have a VA loan, could I buy something bigger than a single family? I get this question a lot, and I think most people think that they can only buy, a single family home, that they cannot buy a duplex, triplex, fourplex, or something along those lines. But as a VA lender, is that true? I mean, I know the answer, but I'd like you to share kind of how that looks.
I have a slide for that. So
I'm jumping the gun. All right,
no, it's okay.
On you then.
No, it's all good. It's there. So buying multi-unit is 100% doable. In fact, I have several people in escrow right now who are using their VA home loan benefit to buy multi-unit properties. And this is 100% you can do it. You still need to occupy, or intend to occupy, is the verbiage on the affidavit you're going to sign at closing. Intend to occupy this property as my primary residence, and the expectation is that would be for a year. But you absolutely can buy multi-units. So this is a humongous advantage if you think about this, because if I'm buying a multi-unit property, which I can turn into an investment property, let's call it within a year, I can legitimately 100% turn this 4-unit property that I'm buying with my VA home loan benefit with no money down. Okay, and we'll get to some of the VA benefits, VA loan benefits in a second, but I'm buying this with no money down. and I can have rental income. I can have multiple. I can have a great investment property for essentially. I could even have no money out of pocket. I mean, it's absolutely nuts what is possible with this. So let's do that. Let's segue right over to I call it the VA loan pros and cons, Sarah, because there's only one con, but there's a lot of pros. So let's get that con out of the way. It's the VA.
Yeah, what is it?
It's the funding fee. Okay, let's talk about it, because the VA funding fee is the only thing that people, like, you'll hear some VA haters out there like Dave Ramsey saying, that funding fee is so expensive. That's crazy. But you got to understand that that's the reason that why you're able to buy 100% financing. That's the reason why you get lower rates. A lot of people don't know this, but the VA loan has lower rates by about 0.5% over conventional financing. And the reason is because the VA guarantees 25% of that loan. So on the secondary market, the exposure for investors is only 75% of the loan amount, which is a very safe bet for them, and therefore the prices on that paper goes higher and the note rates go lower. So you get lower rates with the VA home loan, and you always will, because the VA covers it, and they cover it using the funds that they generate through the VA funding fee. Now, not everyone has to pay the VA funding fee. So if you have any disability rating whatsoever, and it doesn't matter what the percentage is, if you have any, you do not pay the VA funding fee. So,
Derrick, real quick on this, because this question comes up a lot with my VA borrowers. Now, I have some people that say, oh, I heard it has to be 10%. And then I had a lender once tell me it didn't matter as long as you applied and you had a 0% rating that you still qualified. What is the true percentage? Do you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's any. You just have to have a disability rating of any kind. So any service-related disability that's recognized by the VA will allow you to get the funding fee waived, and it's very easy to do if you're in that situation. It's one piece of paper that we need, and we can confirm this for you. So it is not a difficult thing to do. If you have that and you're looking to utilize this, not a problem. Very easy to do. I think the thing that is probably the hottest topic that I want to talk about here at number 3 on the screen is no money needed to close. And this is something where I wanted to have you discuss this, Sarah, because ultimately this your agent who really, there's 2 ways that you can get your closing costs paid for, because you can borrow 100% and you can borrow the money for the VA funding fee if it applies to you, all within the VA home loan. But you still have, when you're buying a home, you still have closing costs. And just in general, a general rule of thumb is that if you're buying a $500,000 house, your out of pocket is going to be about $8,000. Now, it could be, plus or minus, a certain amount, but that's really a good gauge normally what you're going to need to set up your impounds and pay for your side of the closing costs. So for most people, are like, well, man, if I could get away without having to come up with $7,000 or $8,000, that'd be great, and you can do that. And Sarah, how do you make that happen? From the real estate side of things.
So, Derrick, we actually just did this on a deal that we closed yesterday. My borrowers were VA borrowers, and we found a house. It actually had multiple offers on it. And, we went in and we submitted a pretty strong offer. And we had requested that the seller give us $5,000 in closing costs, and we added it into the purchase price. And then the lender that they went with actually gave them some closing cost money as well. We had a couple repair items that came up throughout the transaction, and they asked for a credit on that. So at the bottom line, once we closed, instead of them having to come in, like you said, the $8,000 to $10,000 to close, they actually came back and got money back from the transaction, because the money that we had negotiated for their closing costs actually surpassed the amount due. So when we closed, they actually received $3,000+ back from the company, which included their earnest money deposit. They had put down some money just to show a good faith deposit, and they got that back, plus some additional funds from both the lender and the listing side, which was really helpful to them. They had some savings, but they really didn't want to spend it. And they have some family things coming up. And so it was really nice that we were able to negotiate that for them. And some people say, well, are sellers going to correspond to an offer that has a closing cost request? and we were up against 5 other offers, and we were able to get it. You know, we wrote a letter of the heart to the seller. We did a video. They happen to be military too, and we're really sensitive to that for my clients. And it is very possible. So they came out of the transaction with literally zero money. They didn't have to come out of pocket for their appraisal. The only thing that they came out of pocket for was their home inspection. And once they got those monies from the closing costs and the credits, they were actually in the green, which was really nice for them to move into their new home with some extra money in their pocket.
Yeah, so that's, you make a good point there. There's two ways so that you can make this happen. If you're in a super hyper competitive scenario, which does happen, especially, in the San Diego marketplace, then you can either get closing costs concessed or, closing seller concessions from the owner of the property, or you can get a lender credit. Now, to get a lender credit, what you need to do is just take a slightly higher interest rate. I have a good example of that closing here soon, where we have two, both the spouses are veterans, and, they are both 100% disabled. And so they're on fixed incomes, and coming out of pocket with closing costs was very difficult. And ultimately, what we were able to do was just give them a slightly higher rate. So they took a 3 1/4, which, rates were lower on that day than that when we locked, but it's still a very low rate. We were able to get them $8,500, and it's going to cover everything. So, that is the other option on that. Now, with the VA home loan, you never have mortgage insurance. So I want to make sure people know this, because with most loans you do, especially with no money down. I mean, if you don't put 20% down, you're going to pay mortgage insurance with a conventional loan. And it doesn't matter how much you put down, unless it's a 15-year amortization, you're going to have to pay mortgage insurance with an FHA loan. So this is a humongous advantage, especially when we were talking about multi-unit properties, because typically if you're going to buy, an investment property with a conventional loan, you need 25% down. Well, here you get the benefit of putting 20% down and no mortgage insurance without having to do it. It's just such a drastic advantage, because the mortgage insurance does nothing for you. Mortgage insurance is insurance for the bank. It's not for you. It doesn't insure you for anything. It just allows them to give you the loan. It's a rite of passage, because they need to be covered up to a certain point, and that insurance covers them up to a certain point in a worst case scenario, if you foreclose or whatever it may be. So the mortgage insurance doesn't help you other than just to obtain the loan. So you wouldn't be able to get that loan if it wasn't for the mortgage insurance, but it doesn't do anything beyond that. So when you're paying that money out every month, it's just kind of a lost cause. So what we're trying to do here is show how powerful the pros are here with the VA home loan benefit. Also, qualification is much easier, much easier to qualify. And by the way, also, you can have more than one VA loan. And a lot of people don't realize that. They bought a house when they were stationed in Virginia or, Texas or whatever it may be. And so they're like, yeah, I turned it into an investment property, but I got my VA, entitlement tied up there. Not necessarily true. You will still have some left for sure. And, now if you bought one house here in San Diego, you probably won't have much entitlement left, if any, because, the amounts are higher. But when you buy a $150,000 house in Virginia, you got a lot of entitlement left. And you might be able to still buy another home using just the VA home loan benefit and get 100% financing. It's possible. That's something I have to look up for you, but it's doable. So when we look at why the VA home loan, we have to start with why real estate, which is the first thing we covered. We have to look at, what are the benefits here. And we have to also look at the VA funding fee. We have to make sure that you understand what that is. And if you're paying a VA funding fee, I want you to understand something. It's a noble thing to do. It really is, because what you're doing is you're allowing other people you're allowing the VA home loan benefit to exist. That VA funding fee is what allows the VA home loan benefit to exist. That's what funds everything. So just know that you're helping your brothers and sisters in service by, paying that fee, which is financed in the loan. So, when it comes down to it, ultimately, if it weren't for people paying for the VA funding fee, we wouldn't have the VA home loan benefit. It would have to get financed some other way. They would have to have mortgage insurance. They'd have to have all these things. So in order to have all those benefits, that has to exist. So one thing, though, Sarah, that we should cover as well with the VA home loan benefit is that it does not necessarily work on every single property. So you have to you kind of have to keep that in mind when you're looking at properties. If it's a detached home, more than likely you're good. But if it's an attached home, like a condo, that's something that you'll have to take a look at.
Correct, Derrick. And, the borrower should really look at it, or the buyer should really look at it, that the VA wants to make sure that you're buying something that's worth buying, right? The VA really wants to make sure that you're not buying something that could potentially cause some kind of financial hardship or something that wouldn't be desirable later on. So for detached homes, like you said, most of the time you're right. They won't allow you to purchase something that's a fixer or something that needs major work, like foundation issues or anything along those lines. However, when it comes to condos, what they're really looking for is how is the HOA protecting that buyer. So, for instance, they want to make sure that the HOA isn't in any sort of litigation or law issue. They want to make sure that one owner doesn't own more of the units than the other entity. So, for instance, you can't have one investor that owns 10 units out of 15 because that may change the way that the HOA functions and the way that the monies are distributed towards the units. And so really it's the VA that's looking out for you and making sure that what you're buying is something that it makes sense. And it's something that's not going to, cause a later down the line financial issue for you. And so there are certain condos that are VA approved. I believe, Derrick, you can look them up for them as we're looking at property.
Yep.
And just because it's not VA approved now doesn't mean that it can't be, right, Derrick? Because from my experience, we've actually been able to get a couple different condos VA approved in the course of my career, and most of the time they were just never applied for that certificate. That specific development just never applied for it. So it's not a no right off the bat if it's not been VA approved. We can definitely work on getting it VA approved if that's the one. But for the most part, those would be the reasons.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And you also have to take a temperature of the marketplace. How much time do you have? Is this a really hot property? Is it going to move quickly? And kind of keep those things in mind. When we're in multiple offer situations, as we mentioned earlier, we were talking about concessions. Those multiple offer situations, you have to keep all those things in mind. Okay, well, hey, for example, the example I gave where we were able to help cover closing costs with the lender credit, there was absolutely no way that they would do concessions. And fortunately, I knew the listing agent, which is super helpful, and he told me as much. They're not going to go for concessions. So we said, okay, well, then this is how we need to structure it. So all these things, so much more is possible than I think that most people realize. And when you look at and understand all those different possibilities, you start to go, wow, okay, I didn't realize all this was at my fingertips. And that's really what we wanted to discuss today. And there is one more thing, too, with the VA Home Loan Benefit that I would like people to know, and that is the opportunity. And I say leverage opportunity because we talk about hedging, we talk about paying off your home, and that's really should be your ultimate goal. Because if you just pay off your home and you do nothing else, you don't save any money or have any 401k or anything, you just buy a home and you pay it off, you're going to be okay. And that's the reason why I urge that. And there's a strong correlation between paying off a home and retirement. And I can give you those numbers at another date, but I have the data and it shows that it's clear. People with paid off homes retire, okay? And so paying off a home is great. Now, if you see an opportunity and you need to leverage your home, there's no better vehicle than the VA Home Loan Benefit. You can do 100% cash out, which will allow. So if you bought a home, for $450,000, let's say 7 or 8 years ago, and now it's worth $600,000, you could actually borrow at today's low rates, and you could take cash out against that property up to 100% to do whatever you want with, obviously, but do something smart if you're going to do that. Don't blow it. Don't take it and go buy a boat. Don't take it and go buy your dream car. That's not the idea here. Okay, I get it. That's what a lot of people want to do. Please don't do that. If you're going to do it, make sure you're using it to diversify your investments. To say, okay, hey, you know what? We're totally invested in this house. We're going to be here forever. It's our forever home, but I see an opportunity to do something over here. I see an opportunity to buy a rental property over there. I see an opportunity to, buy this stock or whatever, but just make sure you're doing something to diversify your investments, whether it's more property or something else. It's totally fine. And consolidating debt is totally okay. And that's what a lot of people will do with it, paying off student loans or whatever it may be. Before you consolidate any student loans, though, you have to make sure that you've checked with the income-based repayment plans that are possible, because there are benefits as well for veterans when you consolidate student loans. So before you do that, check with me and let's make sure that that's the best route. But if you consolidate debt, it's okay. We just have to be careful that it's not a habit. We don't want you to create a bad habit of, well, it's just, we can keep putting it on the credit cards, we'll refi the house and we'll pay it off if we have to. Terrible idea. Not something you should do. But if you've gotten yourself into a debt situation, which can be caused by many, many different things, and you happen to have equity in your home, then this is an opportunity to potentially take advantage of that using the VA home loan benefit. Keep in mind, the rates are a little higher when you do this. 100% cash out. If you go above 90%, the rates go up. So you're not getting the normal VA rate on that day. You're getting the VA rate plus 100 basis points. So that's just something to know. That could mean a quarter to a 0.5% higher in interest rate, but you can EARL, which is I always say, remember Uncle Earl, interest rate reduction refinance loan. Uncle Earl wants to save you money. So that's the way to remember what an EARL is. And 210 days after you close any VA loan, you can EARL, or essentially refinance it at the current going rates. I think people should know this because there literally is no other program like this in existence. It doesn't exist. It did a long time ago, in before the crash, and some of the different markets, some terrible loans, just some bad stuff. This is a program that no longer exists, except for through the VA home loan benefit. So for people who want this opportunity, you have to have, VA eligibility to do something like this. So if it's something that you can use to your financial advantage, then terrific. Let's just make sure we're doing it smart. I don't want to send people out there to get cash out to go do something risky. Or, someone asked me recently, should we use this cash out opportunity to pay for our wedding? And, my suggestion is always going to be to have the least expensive wedding that you can. Have the most fun that you can that day. And a lot of times, having the most fun means spending less money, because the more money you spend, the more stressed out you're going to be. And if you're taking all the equity out of your home to pay for, that wedding, that's something that one day you'll go, we probably could have got away with doing a lot less than that and be in a better financial position. And you'll probably be right. So just make sure that it makes sense to do that if you're going to look at something like that. Sarah, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah. Well, just to that point, I think it's important that people realize that your house is not a credit card, like you said, just making really smart decisions on that cash out. And I think that that's kind of what a lot of homeowners learned when we had that great housing market crash, is a lot of people had done that. So I feel like we have a smarter, homeowner now. And like you said, just make sure that you're buying appreciating assets, not depreciating assets. And I think you hit it right on the head on that.
Awesome. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you jumping on here with me on a Saturday night. We both have kids and stuff going on, so it's great for you to do this. We're just trying to take advantage of the marketplace, what the opportunities in the marketplace, show people where the opportunities are in this marketplace. And if you're a VA eligible home buyer or homeowner, there are opportunities that we want to make sure that you're aware of. Of course, we want you to do everything in a very savvy way. We want you to make savvy decisions here. Nothing knee-jerk, no emotional stuff. Let's make smart decisions. And if you have all the information, it is easier to make a smart decision. So I appreciate you contributing tonight, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks so much, Derrick. And like you said, I really do believe that our VA buyers are the ones that are going to be able to reap the most benefits in this market, just because of the amazing benefits that they have at their disposal.
100%. Thank you so much, Sarah. It's great to speak with you, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Derrick.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
Have a good night. Thank you.
You too.
All right, that's Sarah Haliburton. Haliburton Homes. Her information has been on the screen there, of course. If you have questions, you can contact her. And I just want to kind of finish up here by letting everybody know that the market is always changing, and there's always new opportunities. So if you have a question about it, feel free to reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. I want to help people take advantage of opportunities that the market presents. And the market will present opportunities always, no matter what's going on, no matter what you see. Even if we go back to the crash, during the crash, there were lots of opportunities. In the current market that we're in right now, there are lots of opportunities. Whatever market we're in when you watch this video, there will be lots of opportunities. You just have to know a little bit about what's going on, which is where I can help you with, and then also know about what you want. So if we can establish those two things, we can help you figure out how you can maximize your opportunity in any given marketplace. So my information is on the screen if you have questions, and I'll be happy to help you anytime. Thank you for watching. Please share this with your friends. Let's help make them smarter than